the Scream franchise forever has a place in my heart. The older films are really nostalgic for me, and I just absolutely love Ghostface as a killer. I thought it would be really fun today to rank all of the Ghostface killers from every film that we have so far in the Scream franchise. So like all of my tier lists, let's go through the tiers first, from S tier, which will be my favourites, through to D tier, which are the ones that I don't like so much. So for S tier we have Superior, for A tier we have Killing It, B tier is The Feelings Neutral. These are ones that I don't dislike them, but I also don't love them. In C tier we have Would Have Preferred Someone Else, and in D tier we have Who, which are the ones that are just kind of forgettable when we're talking about Ghostface killers. I'm going to go through each film in order, say a little bit about what the plot line is about, and then go into each of the killers. Starting off with the first ever Scream film from 1996. The teens of Woodsboro are left shaken after two students at their school are tragically murdered. Sydney is the killer's next target when her and her friends get taunted by a deranged masked killer. Her mother actually got tragically murdered a year prior, so she has suspicions of a connection. So the killers that get revealed to us at the end of this film end up being Sydney's boyfriend Billy and their friend Stu. Billy's motive for this murderous spree and for turning on his girlfriend was because his dad was actually having an affair with Sydney's mum Maureen, which Billy's mum found out about, and it caused her to leave his dad, causing their parents to split, which he blames Sydney's mum for. Billy and Stu are actually the ones that killed Sydney's mum 1 year ago, with the help of another Ghostface in a future film. I feel like from everything that I see online, that I'm definitely in the minority for what I'm about to say, as I see a lot of people's favourite Ghostface being Billy, but for me personally, I am going to have to put him in B tier. It is a really good twist that it ends up being Sydney's boyfriend, but I just really don't like him as a character. He's a rubbish boyfriend. He is absolutely horrible to Sydney in general, always trying to pressure her into things that she may not be ready for, rude when she was upset about her mum dying literally only a year ago, basically telling her to get over it. I know obviously this is how his character is meant to be. He is meant to be obnoxious, especially as he is literally the bad guy, but just throughout the whole film I find him so insufferable. He's extremely cringy in my opinion. Obviously his character design does what it's meant to do, which is to get on your nerves, but I just can't stand him. Stu is the second killer, so he's in the friendship group with Billy and Sydney and a few others. He is working beside Billy as Ghostface this whole time. They plan to murder Sydney and frame her dad for the murders, as they had previously kidnapped him. Stu claims that his motive was just peer pressure, but he really seemed to enjoy being a part of it and looked forward to being deemed a hero that just about survived if their plan went through. Stu is one of my favourite Ghostface killers, so he has to go in the top tier, the S tier. He's a likeable character. He actually seems insane. I think because he is actually funny and not just trying to be cool, his dialogue and one-liners don't come across so cringe. He makes some weird and rude comments, but I think without the arrogance of Billy, you just assume that he is just the idiot, ignorant joker of the friendship group. Moving on now to the second film that came out in 1997. Sydney has left Woodsboro and now gone off to college. But the nightmare doesn't end when a copycat killer begins tormenting her again, surrounded by some new and old friends as well as her new boyfriend Derek. Sydney still can't feel safe when everyone is a suspect. At the end of the film, we find out that there is again two killers. We have Mickey, who is Derek's friend, and we have Mrs. Loomis, Nancy Loomis, which is Billy's mum. So starting off with Mickey, at the end he reveals to Sydney that he's going to blame it on the violence in movies and that he wants to be caught. His motive was simply that he just wanted to become become infamous for the killings and forever be immortalized in the media. I really am in two minds with Mickey. I did really like the ending of Scream 2. It's definitely one of my favourite parts of the film. He seems really insane and dangerous, but during the film he just kind of seemed like a side character to me. He's not a character that I particularly found memorable throughout the film. Obviously at the ending he has a good ending, but throughout the film he's not really someone that sticks out. So I just feel like that takes away from his reveal being that impactful and surprising. His end scene does kind of make up for that though, so I think I'm going to put Mickey in A tier. Next we have Nancy Loomis. She is pretending to be a journalist throughout the film called Debbie Salt. Although Nancy doesn't have a ton of screen time throughout the film, her character pretending to be Debbie Salt is really memorable as she kind of just barges into the scene. She has some funny moments. Her reveal as Billy's mum was a really good twist. And although I do think Mickey would have worked better as a solo killer and maybe Mrs. Loomis would have worked better in the third film, she is still so entertaining and a really good character, so I am also going to put her in A tier. Moving on to Scream 3, which came out in the year 2000. Stab 3, the third installment in the Stab film series based on the Woodsboro murders, is being filmed, but real bodies start showing up around the set and linked back to the film. Sydney just wants to move on with her life at this point, but she keeps ending up in the centre of this madness. The killer in Scream 3 is revealed to be Roman Bridger, who is the director of Stab 3. I do like how Roman is the only solo killer in the whole franchise. He is actually the one that started it all as well, being Sydney's half-brother that she didn't know about. He previously went to their mum when he found out who she was and where she lived, but she shut him out and didn't want anything to do with him, therefore giving him the motive of revenge and jealousy towards Sydney because she had a good relationship with their mum. I'm going to put Roman in B tier because I really do like the twist of it being Sydney's brother and the story behind him being Ghostface, but I do just feel like we don't get to see enough of him throughout the actual film for me to care or be that surprised. Compared to the other endings of the Scream films, I do think this is one that did kind of fall the most flat for me. Maybe it is also because he is a solo killer and it's just not one of my favourite reveals. I think it would have been interesting to see him working with someone, which is why I say Mrs. Loomis may have been better in the third film. So now Scream 4, which is one of my favourites. Sydney returns back to Woodsboro after 10 years to promote her new book and catch up with old friends and family. With Sydney returning, it also brings the return of Ghostface. In this installment, we are introduced to some new characters, Sydney's aunt and Sydney's cousin Jill. Jill actually ends up being Ghostface alongside Charlie, who ran the Woodsboro Cinema Club where he hosted a Stabathon, which is a movie marathon for the films that are set within the Scream films called Stab. The Stab films are based off of the Woodsboro murders. Jill's motive was jealousy towards Sydney. She grew up being the girl that was related to Sydney Prescott and she wanted some fame for herself. She was always in her shadow. She decided that she wanted the fame that Sydney had, so she set up an elaborate plan with Charlie so they could be the new Sydney and Randy. When I first watched this film, the reveal blew my mind. Jill is such an iconic character and we really see how crazy she is at the end where she stabs herself so she looks like an injured victim. We get all of the chaos of the reveal at the house and then we see later in the hospital when Jill finds out that Sydney is still alive, so she goes into her hospital room and tries to finish her off. They end up getting in a fight, but ultimately Sydney electrocutes Jill with a defibrillator. Honestly, I was kind of sad to see Jill die as she is one of my favourite characters. Obviously, I'm going to have to put her in S tier. She is my all-time favourite Ghostface. Charlie Walker is the second Ghostface in Scream 4 who planned to pretend to be a victim alongside Jill. But little did he know, Jill had plans of her own to kill Charlie to be the sole survivor. Charlie is obviously very interested in the Woodsboro murders as he is a massive fan of the stab films. This was probably a big motive for him to eventually be part of the true crime saga of Woodsboro. He is also secretly dating Jill, so was definitely manipulated by her and her plan. I am gonna have to put Charlie in D tier. I'm sorry, but when we think about Ghostface killers, Charlie is just not one that comes to my head. He's definitely one that I would probably forget about if I was having to list them off. He is just so overshadowed by Jill, and I personally think she has the most impactful reveal. So to have another lackluster one alongside it just makes him ultimately forgettable. Next is Scream 5, and that came out in 2022. 25 years after the brutal chain of killings in Woodsboro, reports of a new Ghostface attack are back in the same small town. This time, Ghostface has new targets, mainly terrorizing two sisters, Tara and Samantha Carpenter, with Tara being the only victim of a Scream opening to have survived. The killers actually end up being their friend Amber and Tara's boyfriend Richie, who are secretly a couple. They both have the motive of love and obsession over the Stab franchise, and how they didn't really like where the Stab franchise was going, so they decided to make their own story so it could be a requel to save their favourite franchise. They are Stab super fans and definitely take the films way too seriously. Their plan was to frame Samantha, who is actually the daughter of Billy Loomis, one of the original killers. I actually completely changed my mind about Amber the first time I saw this film. I think I was just a bit annoyed anyway, as I do hate when they kill off legacy characters, and Dewey's death was just so unnecessary in my opinion. I would have definitely preferred if they just didn't bring him back, if they were just going to bring him back to kill him. But getting back on topic, the first time I saw Amber's reveal, I was literally like, who is that? Because I just didn't really remember her from the film, but each time that I have rewatched it, I just like her more and more, and she quickly became one of my favourite killers. Therefore, she just has to go in S tier. She was a good friend of Tara's, although she was just pretending the whole time. The other killer was Tara's boyfriend Richie. I do really like when they do the killer as the love interest, because of course it kind of ties back to the first film where Billy was Sydney's love interest who ended up being the killer. So whenever a main character has someone, you always do wonder if it's them. And this time it was. Richie's personality just does a whole 180. He goes from being this kind of sensitive, caring character to being this complete psychopath. He really does come across so believable to be a madman. I do prefer Amber, but I can't deny that Richie is a really good Ghostface, so I am going to put him in A tier. Lastly, we have Scream 6, which came out in 2023. After the tragic events of Scream 5, the sisters Tara and Samantha decide to move out of Woodsboro and away from all of the trauma that they went through. They move to New York and they live in an apartment together alongside their roommate Quinn. As the story progresses, Gail actually shows the sisters and some of the other characters this old theatre that she's found, which is full of all old Ghostface and Stab memorabilia. There are so many things, even things from the crime scenes from the Woodsboro murders. It seems as if someone is creating a kind of shrine for the past Ghostface killers. It's revealed at the end that there is actually 3 killers in this one. This is the first time we've ever had more than 2 killers in a film. The killers end up being Detective Wayne Bailey, his daughter Quinn, their roommate, who actually faked her own death earlier in the film, and her brother Ethan, who is not known to be the son of the detective until now. Their motive was revenge, as their brother was actually Richie, who Samantha killed at the end of the last film because Richie was one of the killers. We don't actually know that he's related to them either until this reveal. So firstly, Detective Wayne Bailey, I think it was actually really interesting to have someone who is an investigator, someone who is so high up that ended up being a Ghostface. The reveal felt very exciting because we thought he was trying to help the girls out, and like protect them. We see him with Ghostface coming up behind him. The girls are screaming that he's behind them, and then the Ghostface just stands still and we realize, oh, he's literally a part of this. And then suddenly he has a Ghostface either side of him when we realize that there is 3 of them in on this. The detective isn't one of my favorite killers, but I do think he was a really good choice for this film, so I'm going to put him in B tier. Next we have Ethan. He probably is one of the most predictable killers. He is part of the friendship group, and one of their other friends, Mindy, actually calls him out because she thinks that he is Ghostface. He's there when she gets attacked by another Ghostface, so at this point we're kind of thinking maybe it's not him, but also we're probably thinking there's more than one killer because it's the Scream franchise after all. I think if you're a fan of this franchise and slasher films in general, then you may have seen this coming, because I know I was waiting for a moment where it kind of proved it was or wasn't him. And then this scene we saw where he was on the train with Mindy when we saw her getting attacked, it just kind of confirmed for me that he definitely was one of the killers, because we've seen this kind of fake out before. I think I'm gonna have to put him in the feelings neutral in B tier. And lastly we have the roommate Quinn. I think Quinn is definitely the most interesting out of the 3, especially with faking her own death. I do think it may be a little bit predictable, especially when you watch it back, because her death scene was a little suspicious. With faking her own death, she really went there and went out of her way to make herself not a suspect. Obviously very unbelievable in real life, but I do love a fake death fake out once in a while. It is a fun twist, so I'm going to put her in A tier. So that is my final ranking of all of the Ghostface killers. Definitely let me know who your favourite killers are. This is just my personal opinion. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in another one very soon.